is Cha Boyce, and I am the Executive Director of Friends of the Environment here in Abaco. We're a nonprofit organization. I am originally from Abaco. I was born in Marsh Harbor, and I was in Hopetown. I live in Hopetown now. I actually grew up in Hopetown, and I was in Hopetown for Hurricane Dorian, and never really expected, I guess nobody really expected what happened. We were at my sister's house with I was with my two sisters, my mom, and other family members and friends. And we were there for the first half of the storm, and the roof started leaking, and shutters started blowing off. But we were all huddled in one room, and then during when the eye first came, there were some friends of ours came walking past, and they came and just flew into the bottom door of the house that was open, and they were in a house that had completely blown off of them, and they had a baby, and the dad was holding the baby, and he stepped on an electric wire and was shocked, and the baby, they passed out, and so they were really, really shook up, and we all started looking at each other and going, oh my gosh, what is this? What's going on? Because, we were wet, but our house was still there, and so then all of a sudden there was a big crowd, and so they went down the street to another house, and then we left and went to another couple's house, and who were alone there. They were an older couple, and they were alone at their house, and so we went there. They were also family members, and at the same time, the other daughter came, and the other sister came, and so there were 20 of us that just converged into one house. And but getting there, we realized, the trees were in the road. We were had to get out and move the trees and cut the trees so we could even get the truck past. And so then it started blowing again, and it started picking up again, and then that roof was leaking, just floor was, full of water. The glass door started started buckling in. Everyone was holding it. But we were there. There were a whole bunch of us, and we were basically okay. Nobody was hurt, but so went to bed that night, and everyone was trying to find a little dry spot in the corners on the floor and a chair, and I remember just I don't know if anybody slept, but there was quiet in the house, and as you could hear the drips coming through, and the wind was still howling outside, and just my own thoughts were what happened to our town? Is everybody okay? Because there was no communication, and my kids were both not there; they were away, and what are they thinking? Do they, they don't even know we're okay, and so you have those thoughts, and then of course you think about most importantly you think about the people, and what happened on the other islands, and your mind just races, and then of course here I am, Friends of the Environment, and we have all these employees, and well, not all, we have 5 employees, and how are they, and are we is Abaco ever going to come back, and these are all I hadn't even been to town yet, and but is Friends of the Environment still going to exist? Are my people still going to have jobs? Is anybody going to have jobs? And so the next day, walked into town, and I had a house that was right on the water, in the harbor of Marsh Harbor, and it had fallen into the sea, and so it was like my house was tipped over, and there were boats just in the road, and pieces of houses in the road, and trying to even get through the road into town, and then you get into town, and and just this, you can hardly walk through town, and it's a small town. I mean, you can walk through town in 10 or 15 minutes, and you couldn't even get through town. You had to crawl over and under, and you just kept running into people, and everyone was just hugging each other and crying, and what are we going to do? And but the town pulled together and had a big town meeting and said, we're strong. Let's, we're gonna make this work, and then at that point, when we all got together and there was a lot of devastation. In fact, I go back and listen to my videos, and all I can hear myself say is, "We're devastated. It's devastated," because it was just like you just couldn't believe what you were seeing, and we had no idea what was happening in Marsh Harbor or our friends in other areas of Abaco on the other keys, or even where the hurricane was going, because there was no communication. And then stories started coming in about the devastation in Marsh Harbor, and there were so many lives lost, and then it start you start thinking about being blessed about okay, we're alive, we're thankful, and it goes from being, oh my God, we're devastated, what we're going to do. It's like you have to be thankful for what you have, and then all of these people started coming in and helping, and people from other islands and humanitarian groups started coming in and helping. Okay, I'm going to stop there because I'm rambling. I don't know if you want to ask me questions. I'm just rambling.
You're good. Okay.
So ask me another question. I'll start over. I was like, I don't know when to stop. You need to look at me and say, cut.
No, the whole point is you just to talk. I just want to get a full idea of your experience.
And then you'll go back and cut it out. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what I do. I don't stop. So you have to go.
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
I'm going to go for 5 hours, and I'm not going to stop because I don't know when to stop. Okay, sorry.
No.
My mind is going, should I stop now? Should I stop now? Should I keep going?
Right. So you said that in those moments after the storm, one of the things that you thought about was your staff. How are they? How is Friends of the Environment? Is it going to survive? And so my next question. So tell us a little bit about Friends.
So Friends of the Environment is an organization, a nonprofit organization that was founded over 30 years ago. My father was one of the founders, and I'm proud of that. And we focus mostly on environmental education. So we work with schools throughout Abaco primarily, and we go into classrooms. We give presentations. We have a curriculum on coral reefs, the pine forest, and the wetlands and mangroves. And then we'll take kids out on field trips so they can experience the environment. Because there's nothing better than putting a face mask on and looking at a coral reef for the first time and realizing what's actually under that water and what and why it's so important. And we work with kids who don't even know how to swim, and we put a mask on them. They've never looked under the water, and this is their home. And it is so powerful for them to come out of that and just say, I saw soft coral, where they, an hour earlier, they didn't even know what soft coral was. And, or they've seen a parrotfish alive on a reef for the first time, and you try and impress how important parrotfish are to our reef system. And when they see one and it's nibbling on the coral, and then they realize that fish is helping protect the corals, as well as producing all the sand or most of the sand on our beaches. It just is that really powerful connection. And so we're primarily environmental education, but we also work in a lot of conservation areas. We partner with feel our partnerships are very, very important. We have partnered with Bahamas National Trust and helped with marine protected areas and getting those designated. We work in conservation because conch is such an important product in our economy and our culture. We, and any kind of sustainability because it's so, the sustainability of our resources is what makes our economy go. And a huge part of that is our resources and tourism. I mean, tourism is, one of the biggest industries in our country. And if we don't have our environment, I mean, why do people come here? And so we like to work in conservation, so we're aware of what's going on, and then introduce kids to all the other issues that are happening in the country, and so they'll grow up and be ambassadors for our environment, and they will be they're the future of our country, and it's so important for them to know, what how they're going to feed their families. If let's protect the environment. So we still have sustainable fisheries. So we still have an incredible tourism industry, so to revert a little bit back to Hurricane Dorian and just wondering like what's going to happen to Friends of the Environment, because it is it's my job, it's my passion, and we have 5 staff. And what's going to happen to them, and what's going to, I didn't even know where anybody was. I mean, I knew where a couple people were, but it's like what happened to their homes, and so we regrouped like shortly after the hurricane, and decided that we're going to make this go, and we're going to just work remotely, and we did, and so many people, so many groups came in and needed help. I mean, who wanted to help, and they needed help with logistics. So we just did whatever we could to help those groups. Samaritan's Purse was amazing. They took over our facility that wasn't destroyed, and that was their headquarters. We helped with a group called Yade Global, who donated piles of school supplies because there was no way to get school supplies, and I mean just about every school on Abaco was destroyed, and it's grown into a partnership and we're still working with them, which is amazing. We worked with groups coming in talking about sustainable energy. There's so much more solar on the island now because we didn't have power for so long, and in fact, it's still kind of piecemealing together, like who has power, who doesn't have power. It's still hard to get. My mom just got power in her house yesterday, and she hasn't moved back. She's 87 years old, and she hasn't been in her house. She's been living out of a suitcase for almost 2 years, and there's so many people like that, and I feel fortunate that she gets to live with me. There's other people whose moms, are still away. Okay, I'm going to stop again. You cut me off.
No.
Totally cut me off. I'm sorry.
You're giving us great content.
The film's going to run out. The battery's going to die. Okay.
That's why I keep checking.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I want to go into sustainable livelihoods and that whole thing.
Don't worry.
I'm
We're
like,
gonna get there.
okay.
Don't worry, we're gonna get there.
I go off on tangents.
We have like 30 to 45 minutes.
Okay.
We're gonna get there.
Okay.
Okay. So my next question for you is, see, I had it in my mind and then I just lost it. Okay. So what? You said that one of your facilities was destroyed, but the other one was able to run, Samaritan's Purse and some other organizations were able to use it. So tell us about where we are right now. So
right now we're in, this is our education center that was destroyed in Hurricane Dorian. We're actually sitting in what was the classroom, and this was a bustling of activity from kids from 3 years old to 18 years old with after-school clubs and workshops and summer camps. And this also had our offices in it, and we had also a natural history museum that we worked with now I can't remember what they're called, but cut that part out. Okay. So we also had a natural history museum that we worked with other organizations. Nancy Albury was very instrumental in building the Natural History Museum, and it had fossils from our blue holes. There were crocodiles and tortoises that they never knew ever existed on this island until they were discovered. So we had the only natural history museum in the Bahamas here. We did have, after the hurricane, Nancy came back to the island, and Team Rubicon was here, and they went through all the rubble, and they were able to get the fossils out and secure them. So we hope to rebuild this building. We were almost outgrowing it anyways, and through all the devastation, you got to think about hope and the future and what are the silver linings. And so we're going to build back bigger and better, and we will eventually have this a new learning center. We're calling it the Learning Center instead of Education Center. And it will be a space for everybody in Abaco, and visitors coming from wherever. And it will house a classroom. Our classroom will be bigger. And we also are going to put an exploratorium there. So it's going to be the Natural History Museum, but expanded. We want to show more than just the blue holes and the fossils, which is like a super important part, but have like interactive learning. It's something that was always sort of planned for this, but we're going to make it bigger, and so that when people come to Abaco, they can come and they can learn that that how important our mangroves are, how important our coral reefs are, that we have incredible marine mammals in our seas, and there's kids that don't know that whales are swimming past, are migrating past our islands because you don't see them, but they're there, and we need to protect our oceans for all of these creatures, and so that they can learn more about the history and the natural resources of our islands, and then we'll have offices. We're also going to build in some extra offices so other NGOs can rent space here, so we can all continue to partner and work together. We also have the Frank Kenyon Center. It's a research. We call it a research center. And that opened in 2015. That was not destroyed in Hurricane Dorian. It only had a minimal damage. And Samaritan's Purse was able to come and use that area for their headquarters for about a year after the storm. And it was such an important space for them because they were in such an important part of recovery after Dorian. But it was built, and it will come back. It was built with the idea of having scientists come and stay there, and the scientists, they're studying everything, and so much of it is about conservation, and to bring this science and conservation to our programs, they would. They primarily run on grants and for their funding, and a lot of the grant components requires an outreach. So we would help them and pair them with kids, like local kids. So these kids were able to learn about local science because they're doing this research in their backyard. Right. So kids are like, wow, maybe I can grow up, maybe I can do that, and learn about how important it is. Anything from sea turtles to the coral reefs, to seagrass, to mangroves, and so we were able to provide those experiences for kids, which was really, really important. We also use the Kenyon Center for visiting schools. So we have university groups that come and stay there. We had National Geographic come and do a program there, which was amazing because we were able to, Friends of the Environment was written into their grant, so we were able to provide education and bring in a bunch of school kids for their program, and their program was about the blue holes. And so these local kids were able to meet these people, these scientists from National Geographic who were here and, doing this incredible work. And it was very powerful. We also have schools that other Bahamian students that will come and they'll visit here, and then we provide education programs for them while they're here and take them out on field trips and whatnot.
Okay. So if you talked about planning to build back better, or bigger. I'm sorry, Joe Biden.
Bigger and better. Bigger and better.
I'll rephrase that question and take out my Joe Biden comment because that was his slogan. So you talked about planning to build back bigger, right? How big of an undertaking is that? What goes into that process?
Well, it's a really big undertaking, but it's also so exciting. And it's a huge amount of fundraising because, of course, we're a nonprofit, and funding is, we have incredible people who have donated toward this, and foundations, but it's continual. And so we've raised close to half of the funds. We're looking at a $1.7 million project. But not only do we want to build back bigger, we're going to build back better, and so that this will be a space that is available for so much more, environmental education, awareness, conservation initiatives, and we're a nonprofit organization, so it's not private; it's public, and so we're not building it just for ourselves, but for everybody in Abaco, mm-hmm. and I think it's going to be a space where that people will feel welcome, and they'll and I mean, anybody can come, and so hopefully we'll be able to do programs not only for kids but other community members, and talk about sustainability and climate change and how we can work as a community to protect our environment, and to protect our environment for the economy, but also protect our environment for future storms. And so we're using materials that are going to be stronger. There's a lot of cement that's going into it, and we also run off of solar. So we lost our solar in the hurricane, but that's already been redone. And we got a grant from UNDP Jeff organization, so we can write grants for some of these things, and they've been an incredible organization helping fund a lot of our programs and whatnot in the past. So if we build back stronger, don't depend on the public utilities, be able to, so hopefully we will be able to be a command center again, possibly, maybe a shelter. Not sure we have, but we would be able to be a facility that, in case of another disaster, that it would still be here, and hopefully be able to be self-sustained, so we could get up and running. And I think that after Dorian, we just saw that you need space, you need shelter, you need electricity, so you can have communication, and we not only are do we want to be education, we also want to be a space, and just keep that in mind as we build.
Okay. And how long have you been at Friends?
So my father was a founder of Friends over 30 years ago. So I remember that, and so kind of worked with him in the beginning, and then kind of I backed out of it when I had children because I was busy being a mom. Yeah. But even then, I was involved because they were involved. So every time there was a program happening, we would take them to the programs, and so there was always working with scientists that came here, so I was always involved in that way. And then as they got older, I came back and was on the board. And then 4 years ago, I became the executive director.
Yeah. So friends is in your blood.
Friends is in my blood.
Yeah. And so, having been a part of it for so long, like, do you think that the mission of Friends has changed since Dorian, or has it been affected by Dorian?
No, I think our mission is still the same. I feel like we've adjusted and adjusted a bit because thinking about resilience, thinking about one of the programs that we had that was kind of a thought. It was something we always wanted to do, but how are we going to bring it together is our Sustainable Livelihoods program. And that is geared for students, high school graduates, so 5 years after graduation, 5 years after graduation. And the idea behind it was, here's all these kids who graduated from high school and maybe they wanted to go to college or they wanted a job out of college and, not out of college, out of high school. And so these kids who wanted jobs out of high school or they wanted to go to college, and then Dorian hit, and their families either needed them to come home and and help at their families, or there was no more funding, and so this idea just came, and we've always wanted to teach people that, to teach these kids that there are jobs in sustainability, and you can make a living doing that. So we just started this program. It's pretty new. The pilot program was with solar, when we replaced our solar energy, our solar structure, and the local engineer, he hired on, he took on 2 apprentices, and then we got a grant to do that. And in the grant, we wrote a stipend for the kids. So the kids had an 8-week learning experience, but they were getting paid, because here it is after Dorian and now after COVID, and there are no jobs, and and everybody's struggling, and what are these kids going to do? And so these apprentices got $250 a week, and so they didn't have to go out and get another job. And at the same time, they're learning about a sustainable job possibility in the future. And maybe they'll love it, and maybe that's something they want to go into, or maybe they'll learn that they don't like it and they want to do something else. We've also been working with Idea Relief, who's doing a lot of, they're doing a lot of great things. But we've been working with them with a marine debris cleanup project, and so we had apprentices working with them doing a marine debris project, and now we got a grant to do sustainable farming. So we just started an apprentice with a local sustainable farmer, and so we have kids that are working on the farm and learning about sustainable farming and aquaponics and hydroponics, and so maybe one of these kids, I think, is going to come back and probably start his own farm here, and that all also relates to food sustainability. So not only is it sustainable for our environment, it also relates to food sustainability and food security for our country. We're also looking at doing one with Bahama Marine Mammal Research Organization, and so the kids can go there and work with the scientists. So it's a whole science thing, and it's all about the marine mammals that we have here and what it's like to be a scientist. We also are looking at doing a program with possibly the Perry Institute, and working with coral restoration projects, and which also leads into a tourism aspect, because they would probably be trained to be divers, and that's a great tourism. Take people diving. People want to go diving. People want to see our beautiful reefs, and possibly working with bone fishermen and getting kids learn how to be a bonefish guide, because bonefishing is such a sustainable economy, and it brings in a lot of money each year to the Bahamas. And bonefishing guides, you get to get out in the out in the environment, and learning about the conservation of it also.
And it seems like you're doing a lot to build climate resilience here in Abaco. Do you feel that we're doing enough in the Bahamas to build climate resilience as more major hurricanes are expected to come our way?
Wow, that's a big question. I think that there are a lot of incredible organizations in the Bahamas, and there's a lot of work being done by these organizations. Do you want me to wait for the car to go away? Let me start over.
Okay.
Can you even hear it?
No.
Okay.
Oh.
As far as climate, what was the word you used?
Can you re-ask the question?
Yes.
Are we doing enough to build climate resilience in the Bahamas?
I feel like climate resilience, there can never be enough in small islands, in our island nations, to build climate resilience, because we are so vulnerable, and we have a lot of incredible organizations that are working in the Bahamas, and probably around the Caribbean also, to help protect our islands, but I feel like there could always be more that can be done. I feel like we should look at developments that are happening on the islands in the Bahamas, and when, I mean, of course, the economy needs to grow. Economy always needs to grow. We always need jobs. That's always important, but not at the expense of the environment. If we don't have our coral reefs, if we don't have our mangroves, then we are going to be more susceptible to destruction from hurricanes. Those are the things that protect our islands, protect our homes, and so if we have, I feel like when big resorts come in, there's a lot of degradation of our environment, and we have some really wonderful big resorts already in the Bahamas, and I personally feel like if we became a nation that was more concerned about our environment and attracted the people who wanted to come because we are more environmentally friendly, or we're more concerned about our being green. You know, I mean, I know that's a cliche saying, but that we would attract amazing people that came here, and we would attract people who wouldn't want to come and, you know, go out and spear a bunch of fish, or, you know, or people who would want to know what the laws were, and why our laws are the way they are, so that we do have so that our resources are protected and they are sustainable into the future. I don't have the answers. I just feel like I feel that just the awareness. We got to spread the awareness. When people are aware, then, you know, and all people, and I guess that's, you know, that's why we do it. That's why we're doing what we're doing, because these kids will hopefully grow up and be aware, and they will be our government officials, and they will be the people that are making the policies and looking to the future. I know that, you know, this has been a crazy couple years in our country, but I do feel like the policies that are made, the decisions that are made, always need to keep our environment at the forefront. And I'm sure sometimes that's hard to do, but it's so important. And just having the awareness to you know, to know how important our coral reefs are, and how they work, and to bring in research. You know, it's so important to have the research that's done, and so that it leads to the conservation of our environment. I mean, I say environment, I don't know how many times, but but you can't emphasize it enough, and because it is what our country is, and it's what people come for. Okay, some lessons from Dorian. Yes, don't never underestimate the power of a storm. I've been through hurricanes before, and always thought, well, we can ride it out here. We would never have a tsunami type, situation here because we're islands. It was 2 days before Hurricane Dorian was here, and we were sitting in this classroom having a workshop with teachers, talking about environmental education in their classrooms, and then we kept watching, what's happening, and everyone started getting agitated, and I was like, we need to shut this down. We need to finish closing up this building, and we all need to go home and start preparing our own spaces. So we did. Still, I never, it was, someone sent me sent me something that was out on social media. The government saying to evacuate, and this was like the day before, on Saturday, Dorian hit on Sunday, and I thought it was a joke. I'm like, what are people talking about? First of all, how are we going to evacuate? So yes, number one, never underestimate. Always be prepared. Always be prepared. Always be safe. And then the other lessons are, everybody has their own story. I know I have so often, there's so many people who lost their lives, and but then you hear a story of somebody, maybe they didn't have family members, they didn't have loved ones who they had lost, but their story is still so important, and it's still powerful, and it's still. I know when my son arrived here a week after the hurricane, and I was starting to get in a panic, you start hearing these incredible, like horror stories, like the town's coming together and everyone's doing their thing and we're going to be fine. And then all of a sudden there's this big rumor that cholera is going to break out, and people start panicking. I mean, I know I did. I was like, what's cholera? I know cholera from the history books. And then you're like, okay, you talk to the doctors, it's going to be okay. But then, the Coast Guard's here flying around, and there's boats coming in, and people are looking official. I'm like, okay, it's time for me to get out of here. And my son arrived at the same time. And we hugged each other and cried, and, all those just emotions of just, where are we going? What are we going to do? What's everybody going to do? Everybody was evacuating. Everyone was dispersing. But then you move forward, and then you also, the lessons are learned that, other lessons that are learned are, there's so much hope. There's so many people out there that want to help in disasters. And that you didn't even know that we're going to help you. And so you go from like absolute devastation, what am I going to do with my life? Where am I going to go from here? I don't have a house anymore, and all of the, your mind is just flooding. And to, oh my gosh, we're so blessed. We're so blessed that the world cares about us. We're so blessed that, that there is hope, and that we are going to come back. And the world is watching out for us, and it's I don't know, it's so powerful. I don't, it's like even hard to even express the emotion of it, because it goes from so hard to so hopeful, and to the next day you're gonna go, everybody's up early in the morning, and I would take my coffee up and watch the sunset, and I would just be crying. And it's like, why am I crying now? Because it's just like, it's so emotional, and you can't even,
Normally stop.
I'm going to start crying. It's, it's hard to even put it in words. It's really hard to put it into words. But going back to our environment, because that's my passion. That's my, that's our life. That's our islands. Is protect what we have. Let's protect what we have now. And as we move back into into recovery, let's not forget. Let's not forget that. What's important to us and why we love what we love, and let's all work together. Let's keep our communities together. Let's protect what we have. Let's when we want tourists, we want visitors so badly, but let's teach them, and because then they will appreciate what we have, probably don't underestimate and don't forget and appreciate what you have, so that we can continue to be hopeful, and we can continue to rebuild, and we can continue and help your neighbor. Always help your neighbor. It's you got to do it. It's so important.
I want to hold on to that notion of hope for a little bit, and so I want to ask you, what is your hope for the future, for Friends and for Abaco?
My hope for the future is, for Friends of the Environment, I have so much hope. I mean, I work with such an amazing group of people, and the group of people goes from, our staff of 5, which are my people. I don't know what I would have done without my people in the last couple of years, to our board members. Every one of our board members stuck with us, and to the people who donate, people who have been so generous to keep us going, and who called me after the hurricane and, what's your staff doing? And, is everybody still employed? And it's yes, we're still employed. We're all working from home. We're all going to make this work. And to sending us a check, because they want not only do they want the environment to be protected, they want our employees to be paid so that we can continue with our mission. And I am so hopeful that Friends of the Environment is going to come back even better, that this space that we're in that's broken right now is going to be this incredible building, but a space that students can come to, that visitors can come to, that second homeowners from another island have to come to Marsh Harbor and go shopping, and they bring their picnic sandwich, and there's a deck that they can go, and at the same time they walk through our lobby and maybe learn something about the importance of grouper, and that there's a season on grouper. It's no, don't go, or there's a season on crawfish. That's just one small thing, but it's so important. And then so I just feel like this is going to be this space that is going to provide so much hope for the future of Abaco, and because the future of Abaco is about protecting our environment, about conserving what we have, and if we can provide that, and if we can make this space. If we can provide that, and we can make this space be a space of hope, a space of looking to the future, that's my hope, and I feel strongly that's going to happen. I really do, God, you can get me all emotional about this. It's
And lastly, what is your hope for the Bahamas?
My hope for the Bahamas is the same as the hope for Abaco, and my hope is that these incredible organizations that are working for the environment throughout the entire country continue to grow, continue to be really important, can continue to be funded, and continue to spread the word that we are one of the most incredibly important, or more, maybe not important, but we're important. I think we're important. But incredibly beautiful places in the world. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen this picture from space when the astronauts look down and say, you know, that's our world, that's our home. And what they're looking at is the Bahamas. And they're looking at these little islands surrounded by this incredible turquoise blue water. And that's because it's not spoiled. It's, you know, we as a country are blessed, and my hope for the future is that these kids grow up and they realize that we are blessed and that we are fortunate to call this our home.
Interviewed by Mia Cambridge, May 2021. Funding for this interview was provided by the International Organization for Migration Bahamas. Dorian and beyond, battered but not broken. For more information, please visit us online at www.dorianandbeyond.org.